Hey guys, Sicilian Defense is in general the most popular line versus King's Pawn, and also it's a pretty strong opening. In this video we're gonna learn 5 opening traps to crush Sicilian. Especially among beginners and intermediate players, these traps work amazingly well. So let's get into it, and in the first opening trap we are going to use Smith-Morra Gambit. So we will play d4, and after c takes d4 we are gonna play c3 here. Observe, we want to put 2 pawns in the center, so in general black needs to capture at this point, and then we of course capture with the knight. A very normal move is d6 here, and then we play bishop c4, and if black plays here knight f6, which is an extremely logical and normal move here, then they are getting into what we want. Here we are going to play the move e5, and this is very annoying because the knight has just been developed and then they have to move it somewhere. But the main idea here is that if they accept the pawn, the king is guarding the queen, so we can try to deflect the king by playing bishop takes f7 and then getting the queen on d8. Of course this is winning for white. But also I want to highlight something here, and even if black does not play knight f6 and they play our moves like g6 for example, the same idea e5, the same trap, could also work if this happens. The next opening trap to crush Sicilian Defense is going to be in the open variation like knight f3, knight c6 and then d4, and if black tries accelerated dragon, which is this move g6 here, and it's actually a very interesting line, we're going to play knight c3 and bishop e3. This is a main line here. After knight f6 we will play bishop c4, and then when they castle, at this point we need to move the bishop back to b3. This move is a little surprising here, but it seems like the idea is to avoid the tactics with knight takes e4 and d5, removing our central pawn. So this is a very normal move in this line for white. We are still in main line here, and if black plays a mistake here, the move knight a5, which is actually very tempting because they are trading the knight for our good bishop. This is already very good for white. They are getting into the trick. There's a famous game, Fischer-Reshevsky 1958, where Reshevsky got into this trap. The right move for white here is e5, and then black is going to be in trouble. Observe that the knight does not have too many squares to go, only h5, but if the knight goes there, it's going to be on the edge of the board. We can just play g4 and get the knight. The other move is knight e8, and then we're going to see how to continue after that. But probably the best move is knight takes bishop. Get into these trades. Then we capture the knight, they can capture the rook, we capture the bishop, they can capture the pawn, and then, well, we have some moves like castling first and those things, but well, in general we can capture the knight. And this position is good for white. We have like 2 knights for a rook. That should be very well. They have a pawn I think, but still is a good position, better for white. So after e5, the main line is knight e8, and here they're actually losing the game. Here white is winning with a beautiful combination. We can just play bishop takes f7 here. The idea is that we're removing the defender of the square e6. Observe that this pawn is not really defending e6 because there will be a pin when we move the knight. And also observe that the queen could be trapped there on d8. So for example, if black takes here with the rook, we are playing knight e6, and then we're capturing the queen. But well, you might be thinking, okay, I'm not taking with the rook, I'm taking with the king, and then the king defends. Well, we can play knight e6 anyway. The idea is that the queen is still trapped, and if the king takes, the king is being extracted outside, so that will be checkmate very soon. So just to show you what can happen if the king takes, we have a check here, we have a check here, involving the rook over there, and well, this is already winning. For example, check and check. This is mate in the next. After rook f3 we capture the rook. And the next opening trap is also in the open variation when we play knight f3 and then we play d4, and after knight f6 we defend. At this point black can play the classical variation with knight c6. This is very well, and we are going to play bishop c4, which is a Sicilian attack. In this position black has some moves, but this g6 is very tempting. It's a very normal move just to develop the bishop over the fianchetto. And here we are going to try knight takes e6, b takes e6, and again these ideas with e5. As you can imagine, if the pawn takes, we have bishop takes f7 and we're getting the queen. So this move is already very annoying for black. They have some options, but this position after this e5 is going to be extremely tricky. There are many lines and many tricks over there, so I'm just going to show you what can happen. For example, here the knight can go to h5, but then we're playing the move queen f3, and this is very strong. We are threatening check over here, but also we are threatening check over here, getting one pawn in both cases. Black can try d5, stopping both threats, but then we have a small combination here with knight takes d5 and bishop takes d5, attacking the rook, also attacking over here. After rook b8, we can just capture with the bishop on f7, and this position is already very good for white. Observe, we have like 3 pawns for a piece, but also the king is very exposed and the attack is going to be decisive, so this is just winning for white. I'm just going to show you what can happen with one line. We can give a check here, we can give another check here, and after king b7 we give a check over here, and this is already winning for white. We have a mate sequence with check, check, and checkmate. So this knight h5 is not really going to work very well. So after e5, probably the best move for black is going to be this knight g4, and then we're going to play this bishop f4. We have some pressure here on d6, so probably black does not want to develop the bishop immediately, and they can try d5 first, saving the pawn but also attacking the bishop. But this is exactly what we want, because in this position we are going to get into knight takes d5 and queen takes d5. This is very interesting because after queen takes, bishop takes, we are getting the rook. The only move for the rook is going to b8, and then we have this check here. The problem is that the rook is on the same line as our bishop, and there will be some tactics over there. After bishop d7, we trade and we check, and we're getting the rook for free, so they need to play king c8. We capture and we capture. In this position we have like 3 pawns and a rook versus 2 minor pieces, which is already very good for us, but also the pawn structure is bad for black, so white is clearly better here. And this opening trap is very effective but also pretty simple. We just play here knight f3, and after d6 we get into this line they call delayed alapin, and the idea of course is to play d4, and after knight f6 they are attacking the central pawn on e4, but then we don't defend it. We just play here bishop e2, and the idea is that black cannot really take the pawn, because if they take it then we have queen a4 check, this is a fork or check and capture, and then we're getting the knight in the center. So this trick is actually very effective. I have seen even professional players in tournaments getting into this, not like super GMs, but the last trap is just a variation of this one we just saw, and it happens when black says, okay, I cannot capture the pawn because there is a check, so I'm just going to play knight c6 first, and then I'm threatening the pawn. Well, in this position, again, we don't have to defend the pawn, we can just play d4 here, and black can say, well, I can just capture the pawn since the rank is blocked, and also the diagonal is blocked, so there won't be a check and the knight is not going to be hanging. But this is actually an even more interesting and complicated opening trap. Here we are just going to play d5, forcing the knight to go away but also clearing this line, and when the knight moves, just let's say a move like knight e5 maybe, we can play the check again, and then we can capture the knight anyway. If you guys have any question, let me know in the comments. If you want to see the 5 most powerful and effective opening traps in chess, check out this video over here. I highly recommend it. Thank you guys, like, subscribe, see you on the next.